We can have all the blue ribbon committees we want. But if we don't get tough on the drug dealers, we're wasting our time. Just remember that. We're wasting our time. And that toughness includes the death penalty. You know, it's an amazing thing. Some of these drug dealers will kill thousands of people during their lifetime. Thousands of people. And destroy many more lives than that. But they will kill thousands of people during their lifetime. And they'll get caught and they'll get 30 days in jail. Or they'll go away for a year. Or they'll be fined. And yet if you kill one person, you get the death penalty or you go to jail for life. So if we're not going to get tough on the drug dealers who kill thousands of people and destroy so many people's lives, we are just doing the wrong thing. We have got to get tough. This isn't about nice anymore. This isn't about committees. This isn't about let's get everybody and have dinners and let's have everybody go to a blue ribbon committee and everybody gets a medal. But frankly, talking and doing nothing. This is about winning a very, very tough problem. And if we don't get very tough on these dealers, it's not going to happen, folks. It's not going to happen. And I want to win this battle. I don't want to leave at the end of 7 years and have this problem. Okay? I don't want to, right? Thank you. Not going to happen. Thank you all.
Alright, Shalom, brothers. First one, call Allah Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushai Ba'ashim Rakah Kadash. That is to say, all praises to Yahweh, whom you ignorantly call God, in the name of his only begotten Son, whom you ignorantly call Jesus Christ, which is the so-called black man, according to the scriptures. If you read it, there are a lot of people that say they don't worship a white God or whatnot. But if you read the Bible, it clearly tell you that he's a dark-skinned man, and his attributes are one of our people. Alright, so I think that Satan is out there trying to push that vibration, so we gotta combat that. Alright, so give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh by Shem Yahushai, the Most High, in the name of his only begotten Son Yahushai, in the Hebrew tongue, the Lashawan Kadash, our native tongue. That's the language that we spoke prior to the so-called white man beating our nationality and our heritage out of us. Alright. He took our names, our last name. He made us stop speaking our language, right? And he didn't give us African. He didn't beat. When you watch that movie, I think it's Roots, you see the slave owner beating Kunta Kinte, trying to tell him that his new name was Toby, and to stop him from his heritage, his culture, and his language. That slave master wasn't beating his culture, his name, and his heritage out of him just to give it back to him. Alright, they beat his name, his culture, and his heritage out of him to give him something false, to stop them from being that people in whom they were. Alright, which were Hebrew Israelites that they went and traded for on the west coast of the continent of Africa. Alright, which Africa goes back to a Roman general which conquered the northern tip of Africa by defeating the Carthage, which was Hannibal, which was another so-called black man. Alright, so when you call your name out, when you call yourself an African, just note that that name goes back to a so-called white man. Alright, just a quick footnote for that introduction. Alright, so as you can see here, there was a video of Donald J. Trump giving a speech, right, on the so-called opiate crisis, which is nothing but a plague from the Heavenly Father. Right, the scriptures talk about the Lord plaguing Egypt again. All right, which is modern day Egypt. It's clearly America. All right, the modern day Egyptian, the modern day Pharaoh, right, the modern day Egyptians, the slave masters, are clearly these Edomites. Right, whom you know as so-called white people. right? And they're not white. You see that their skin is pale, right? Translucent for a lack of melanin. Okay, so he talked about a war on drugs. Now, his attorney general Jeff Sessions. You know what the attorney general is basically the attorney general sets the precedence, the standard for all the district attorneys that are in America. All right, so our previous attorney general was Eric Holder, and what Eric Holder did as the attorney general, he commanded he commanded the district attorneys, all right, not to go for maximum sentences and to be light on drug users. So they wanted to minimize, underneath the Obama administration, they wanted to minimize the amount of people that was being locked up for non-violent drug offenses. All right, when Barack Obama came into office and he appointed Jeff Sessions to be the Attorney General, and Jeff Sessions, Southern bastard, he has a reputation for being a bigot, a racist, making some racist remarks. But it fits the Trump administration, right? It fits these people that are in power. And now, when he came to be into power to be the Attorney General, he scrapped what Eric Holder did. He scrapped that plan, and not only did he scrap that plan, he set forth the opposite. So he made it so that the district attorneys are going for the maximum sentence that you can get for whatever drug case you get. For example, here in Massachusetts, if you get caught with drugs or intent to distribute in a school zone, it's a mandatory 2.5 years just for the school zone. So you get caught with 2 bags of weed. If they can prove intent to distribute just for having it in a school zone, it's 2.5 years. So wherein you would take a plea bargain from the district attorney, okay, take 9 months or take a year, where you don't have to do the 2.5 years mandatory. That was underneath Eric Holder. Now it's just they're pushing for the trial for the 2.5 years. Just to give you an example of what I'm talking about. Alright, so if you're not living underneath a rock, right? Matter of fact, let me not even say that, because this is this information that we're ordained to push forth is information. We're first of all, we're ordered to push this information out because CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, as you see on the screen here, all these news channels, they're not going to give you the truth. All right, they're dealing in deception. Right, they're dealing with lies and deceit. That's how the so-called white man operates. All right, he operates off of lies and deceits. All right, so we're going to give you the truth here. So, I got an article I want to bring out too. All right, because what I was going to say is, it's already been, the cover's been already blown off the lid. All right, then you have officials that did time that was in the Nixon administration. We're gonna read the article. That was in the Nixon administration, and whom have admitted, right? Here's the title right here. It says Nixon aide reportedly admits drug war was meant to target black people. Did we know we were lying about drugs? Of course we did. All right, this is an article written by Hillary Hansen. All right, and it reads, an eye-opening remark from the former aide to President Richard Nixon pulls back the curtain on the true motivation of the United States war on drugs. Richard Ehrlichman, who served 18 months in prison for his central role in the Watergate scandal, was Nixon's chief domestic advisor when the president announced a war on drugs. In 1971, the administration cited a high death toll and the negative social impacts of drugs to justify expanding federal drug control agencies. Doing so set the scene for decades of socially and economic disastrous policies. All right, so journalist Dan Bonham wrote in April's cover of the Story of Harps, about how he interviewed Churchman in '94 while working on a book about the drug probation. All right, Churchman provided some shockingly honest insight into the motives behind the war from the Harps. He says, this is, and he quotes, "You know what this was really about," he asks, "but the bluntness of the man who, after public disgrace and a stretched in federal prison, had little left to protect. The Nixon campaign in 1968 and the White House after that had two enemies, the anti-left and black people who understood." You understand what I'm saying? We knew we couldn't make it legal to be either against the war on black, but by getting the public to associate the hippies with the marijuana and the blacks with heroin, we then criminalized both heavily. We could disrupt those communities. We could arrest their leaders, raid their homes, break up their meetings, and vilify them night and night on the evening news. Did we know we were lying about the drugs? Of course we did. In other words, the intense racial targeting that's become synonymous with the war on drugs wasn't an unintended side effect. It was the whole point. Alright, so I could keep going on about this article, and not with this article, but with other articles. But for this section, I want to drive home the point that the so-called war on drugs is a war on black people, not just black people, but Hispanic as well. As you're gonna see that it was added to it. So now we fast forward, all right, decades ago, and now here you have Donald Trump as we run this video.
Because we can have all the blue ribbon committees we want, but if we don't get tough on the drug dealers, we're wasting our time.
Now, them getting tough on the drug dealers, you got to understand how the so-called white man talks in code. And matter of fact, he just told on himself because he gave you an inside. He said we couldn't have a war with black people and the left, so we had to use cold words. So when Donald Trump says we got to get tough on the drug dealers,
remember that.
He's talking about Jake, man. He's talking about our people.
Includes the death penalty.
He's not talking about giving his people the death penalty. When these people are clapping, they know what they're clapping at. They know what he's talking about. Right? It's only docile coons, right, that don't understand how these people operate. Because they're dealing on a low vibration, a wavelength vibration. They don't understand the cold words that they use. They don't know when they say we got to get thugs off the street. That's cold word for getting you so-called blacks off the street. So when he says we got to give these drug dealers the death penalty, who are the real drug dealers, right? Because the real drug dealers are these pharmaceutical companies. All right, about 90% of the dope is coming in from Afghanistan. So the elites of this society are sending troops over to Afghanistan, where they're having them guard poppy seeds, and they're bringing them back over to America, right? Because they're being purchased by these huge pharmaceutical companies that are multi-billion-dollar companies that are making these opiates. They're putting these opiates in pills, oxycodone, Percocet, Adderall, all these, whatever pills it is, whatever the so-called prescription that they prescribe, and everybody's in on it. Doctors are in on it. That's why you go to the hospital. All right, you break a leg or something like that, they prescribe you an opiate. All right, until when your prescription opiate pills run out, you find yourself on the streets trying to get dope because it's cheaper. Right, so these huge pharmaceutical companies that make billions of dollars, they ain't talking. Donald Trump ain't talking about putting them to death. Donald Trump ain't talking about putting them out of business, giving them the death penalty. I did a show on this earlier. I'm gonna do it again. Forgive me if I'm repeating myself, but anytime you have a problem and you don't want to get to the root of the problem, it means you just don't really want to solve the problem. All right, let me read this one real quick. This is the book of Habakkuk, chapter 2, verse 15. It says, woe unto him that giveth his neighbor drink, right? That putteth thy bottle to him and making him drunk also, that he might look on their nakedness. That word woe means death and destruction, right? So destruction unto him that giveth his neighbor drink and putteth the bottle to him and maketh him drunken. Also that they may look upon their nakedness. So in other words, death and destruction to somebody, it's a setup. This is somebody that's shoving drugs into the black community and putting them on the news, putting them on Front Street, saying, look, these guys are drug addicts and they're drug dealers, and coming up with a problem and a so-called solution for these drug addict and drug dealers, which is ultimately breaking up their families, kicking down their doors, causing chaos, stopping, frisking, and putting them in jail. This is exactly, and this is just on a small scale, but on a lot. This is something that's on a small scale, but to a larger scale of why our people are in the condition that they're in. A lot of people like to say, you can't blame the so-called white man for what's going on, but you can. Now, when we come into this knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, now we are held accountable for ourselves. So what does that mean? I'm not finna go out here and sell no drugs. I'm not finna go out here and use no drugs because I know the trap. But to say that our people aren't being taken advantage of in the low state that they're in the condition that they're in, is all bullshit. To say that people in high places, right, in the government officials, right, with higher technology advancement, that has data to study what's going on, to know people's actions and their reactions, to have control over you economically, politically, socially, that controls your media, with your kids, the curriculum that your kids are being taught in school, don't have a say in what's going on. You got to be out of your mind, man. You can't be that naive. You can't be that naive. Go back to this video and see what this devil has to say, man.
You know, it's an amazing thing. Some of these drug dealers will kill thousands of people during their lifetime.
And what drug dealer, killed thousands? This is all propaganda. Thousands of people this is all fucking propaganda, man. You know who's killing? Don't you know, let me tell you something. 500,000 Americans die a year from cigarette-related deaths. Man, I could go on and on. Man, that's just one industry. I could go on and on. Matter of fact, Isaiah chapter 10, verse 1, it says, woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees and write grievousness for which they prescribed. Alright? You know, when unrighteous decree is a law, right? So you write a law, right? You make a law, a maximum mandatory sentences for drugs, right? So woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees, right? Unrighteous and write grievousness for which they prescribe. You know what that means? This is what they prescribe, man. You write a law and you write a sentence, but you're the one that's causing this. That's wicked as hell, man. And these so-called white man gotta pay for this, man. He thinks he's the end all be all. He don't think that there's a God, that there's a power in the heaven and the skies that's watching him and that's ultimately gonna judge him for the wickedness that he's doing. He thinks that he's gonna continue to treat our people, lead our people like sheep that's being led to the slaughter forever, and he's gonna just ride off into the sunset. Nothing's gonna happen to him. But the scriptures say this, that the Heavenly Father is not mocked. For whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he reapeth. And the so-called white man has sowed the seeds of destruction, so he's gonna have to reap that. Shalom.